Good evening, girls and guys. We are back with another podcast. This time, someone very special and dear and close to Melissa and I, a Mr. Andrew Morrison. A lot of you will know exactly who he is because you would have seen him on all the trails around Cape Town. But this is one of the OGs of mountain biking. And we thought it would be so amazing to chat to him about some of the current relevant topics in mountain biking at the moment. Andrew's got a great brain. Thank you for joining us.
Sure. That's
How's that for an intro?
Pressure from the get-go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great brain.
Yeah,
My
great
mom
brain.
and dad never told me that, so thanks for it. I appreciate that.
So Andrew's been he's been involved in our journey quite a bit, especially of late, because he has. I joke with him, and I don't know how you feel about me saying this about you, but Andrew has a very calm demeanor, especially on the trails. It's not a bad thing. No, I think it's an amazing
You obviously haven't seen me when I'm wearing the goggles coming downhill. Then I
Down Spice Route.
That's not a calm demeanor.
But with Melissa and I and where we are at the moment, we try and lean on a lot of people for help and guidance and assistance. And Andrew is one of the many. And you've always been that person that we can feel comfortable with. And because we're comfortable with him, he gets us over certain things that we wouldn't necessarily do.
Oh,
and I think it's not just about us. I think you're that for a lot of people.
I don't know. You know what? I'll tell you what happened why I've sort of, I wouldn't say changed my attitude, but one of my very first mountain biking experiences, I was riding at Contamins, I was on a hardtail.
Yeah.
Didn't know what I was doing. I mean, there was no rhino in those days.
We don't talk about hardtails. It shows our age.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
True. And there was only really super tubes, cheeky corners. You know, that's what I was riding.
Yeah.
And I was riding, and super tubes also had a different routing, so it didn't have all the berms to the bottom. And so I was riding this thing. It was actually on my birthday many years ago. And there were these, you know, they have on continents, there's these contour berm things that the farmers have created.
Yes,
so you used to come over a couple of them on super tubes. And I came over one and I wiped out. I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. I had a major crash, like slid on my face down the single track. You know, probably looked worse than Trickers van Heerden after a round or two, you know. And I was lying there and everything was off me, like my phone had been flung out, my bike was flung out, and I'm lying on the side of the track, and these two oaks come over the same little mound, and I check, and they've stopped, and they're trying to help me, and they can see I'm a bit disorientated, face bleeding, like gravel in the lip, you know, that kind of bleeding.
Oh, my word.
And then while they're trying to help me get my bike and find myself on the trail, these other two oaks come over, and they just start flicking us out, because it's my Strava! My Strava. God. So I just thought, I don't want to be that kind of oak.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that kind of oak on a trail, because I thought, jeez, that's weird. The oaks were genuinely peeved because I was crashed and lying in the single track and they had to stop.
It takes all kinds in the mountain biking fraternity.
So.
But I suppose that brings us on. Sorry, we are not sponsored, but we've got a really refreshing
Look, in this heat,
Amstel Radler. But while we're on that topic, Strava.
Well, while we're on that topic, Rob, you know, get in the game, bud. Really, get in the game.
Mr. Stark, we need to get some of your beers on this podcast. While we're on the Strava topic, good or bad? I mean, okay, I'm not going to lie. We use it.
It's up to the person.
Yeah, we don't. It's not our be-all and end-all, but it gives us an idea of how we're riding the trail.
Sure. I think I've gone through different Strava seasons.
Yeah.
I've gone through Strava seasons where I'm riding with my mates like Chris Steffens and the boys, and it's all about knocking a second off and beating the oak and your crew.
Yeah.
That's probably the worst kind of way to handle Strava, because it just becomes chasing seconds.
Yeah.
And with guys like me, I'm riding out of my skill level, chasing those seconds.
Yeah.
So I had a crash ratio in, I think it was like 2021 or whatever it was, where I was crashing 1 in every 2 rides.
Oh.
Not necessarily bad crashes, but always
off the bike, yeah.
And that was when I was chasing Strava hard. Com chasing.
Yes,
So com chasing is where Strava's bad. Personal monitoring and then having good friendly rivalries with mates is good.
Yeah.
But when it becomes personal like that, it gets nasty.
It shows people's true colors, I suppose, at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think it does.
It's a tough one because it's all about what the intention is at the end of the day.
Yes.
If your intention is to use it as a tool to build, different story. If it's used as a tool to decimate, I think that's obviously because then you start putting yourself at risk and also other people on the trail.
Yes. Look, I mean, I think have good rivalries with mates. But remember, Strava's a bit glitchy, so don't get too hectic about it. And word to Strava, reset everything to 0 at the beginning of each year because trails change. So I could go down a trail
such a good point.
2 minutes 50 2 years ago, and now the trails changed. There's no ways I can break 3 minutes. And then you're kind of going, what the heck? But actually, trails change. So it's almost a good idea for them you can maybe access a database where you can look at previous years, but each year should be a year.
A little drop down with years.
Yes.
So you can see reference times.
Yeah. And then your current year is the one you all play around in and chase each other as mates. And
I promise you, it's so funny. We and this has happened to us a bit. The older Garmin watches, now that we're on e-bikes, and I want to bring up e-bikes in a little bit, but now that we're on e-bikes, the older Garmin watches don't have e-bike rides. So you got to physically go into Strava and change your ride to e-bike. And you must see
get some comments.
The amount of people that have flagged mine and Melissa's rides because we are a bit faster than them.
Yeah. Look,
and it's an honest mistake. I mean, we're not the fastest people in the world. But it literally takes 5 minutes after your ride submitted before someone's flagged your ride.
Look, so what you should do is every now and then when you if I get a bit big-headed, then what I'll do is I'll do a ride on an XE sort of trail with my e-bike, but put it as an Amish. And then I take the flack from all the comments, and then it just brings me down to it. It's a good leveler. But no, you're right. I mean, the guys, they get very touchy and very sensitive. And that's the negative side.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's the negative side of social media.
Yeah.
Being a YouTuber like yourself, you're going to pick up people that are just keyboard warriors.
And it's funny you mentioned that. We get loads of comments that come in every single week that we put up a new video.
Yeah.
Some of them more believable than not. And it's amazing to see that once you put yourself out there, people feel that they have the ability to say whatever they want 100%. To you.
Yeah. It's a weird human default setting, unfortunately.
It's
and you just got to filter through it.
Yeah.
And then you get back to, again, if we put it in terms of the Strava context, I've come full circle, where Strava was just a way of measuring how long I'm riding, how far I'm riding, a little bit of speed here and there, comparing, I did a bit better today on the trail, to like chasing comms and chasing my mates. Now I've come full circle back to it's just monitoring. I don't care who sees it, whether I get kudos or not. I'm only looking at it from my own, because I am slowing down. I'm 53, I'm slowing down. I've had a couple of prangs, whatever. Ask Greg Monar, he'll tell you he's also slowing down. And but the beautiful thing about it is now it's just becoming what it was in the beginning, a pure way of me checking what I've done, where I've been, and then it's that's all it is.
So what do you say, old men on e-bikes?
Old men they're made for old men. You know what I mean? Like my son rode an e-bike for a year, raced it. And I always used to have a dig at him. You know, you're young. You should be pedaling at that stage of the game. It helps old men get to places they probably wouldn't get to on an Amish.
Yeah.
Without doing their hearts in.
Is that a good or a bad thing, though? So I've got the flip.
It could be both.
Yeah, I've got a flip side on that thing, and we were chatting about it the other day. E-bikes afford you the ability to get to places and trails where you can't necessarily descend.
Yes.
And it's out of your skill level. So you kind of get caught up in this climbing thing because the climbs are generally doable as long as you can pedal. But when you get up to the top, there's only one way down.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have the skill. So what the trend nowadays is everyone wants an e-bike because they can do more and go further and all of these things. But then they don't have the skill level to match the bike.
I think the oaks that would best answer that question is if we went to Carl Bremer and all the emergency hospitals and said, okay, tell us the stats in terms of how many old boys you're pulling off the hills these days and what they were riding. I think you got a valid point.
Yeah.
But even although that might be true, I would rather, as an old fat guy, be crashing on an e-bike up in the hills having a jaw than having a heart attack in an office eating whatever, sausage rolls. So I still think yes, we're going to get up there.
Yeah.
And guys have to. So maybe that's a good segue into, you know what, I think one of the biggest things we don't do these days, or I didn't do, is session and go for skills.
Yes.
And I think that's where maybe the old oaks on the e-bikes need to catch a bit of a wake up and go, yes, I can get up, but maybe I need to chat to a couple of oaks that'll help me get down so I can come around again and do the thing.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully it goes in that direction.
We were actually chatting to Rob about that, Rob Dupree from Rubber Side Down. And if you look at the ratio of people doing training at the moment, 75% or 80% of the people that he sees is younger individuals.
Yeah.
It's very rare that the older guys, I'm proud. I can ride a bike. I don't need lessons.
You're riding a bike for 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah. So those are the guys that don't go for training, but the people who actually, in hindsight, need the training.
Yes.
We also sometimes those oaks' worst enemies, because I've taken mates up that are new to mountain biking, and I forget, having been riding for 10 or 12 years, I can't remember how long it's been, you've grown, right? So what looks pretty chilled to you, you kind of just impose that on the guy that's starting up. We got a mutual friend, old Charles. I mean, we've did that. I've done that to Charles with Chris and the boys. No, just ride it.
It's happened to me with Chris and the boys as well, which is why, and I mean, Chris won't mind me and Brett won't mind me speaking about this, but a group was put together for a type of riding, and I felt that I wasn't fast enough.
Right.
Also, probably at the time, I wasn't as crazy as they were.
Yeah.
And they were chasing the times and they enjoyed going really fast. I thought if I had to go that fast, I would be way out of my skill level.
Yes.
And again, we went our way, you guys went your way, and we kind of like full circled now, as you said.
Yes.
And we've got to come back to the cool thing about mountain biking is, and mountain biking brings people together, firstly, number one. And secondly, we are riding because we enjoy bikes again.
Yes.
And I think that's, like, people go their own routes and they do their own things, and we should get training, and some of us don't. But I think the most important thing is that we come to a realization one day that bikes is there for us to have fun, to have a joy, to get out, to smell the flowers, detox. Yeah. I mean, we was chatting before we went on air, and I was saying it's an exit for Melissa and I.
100%.
Like
for a lot of us,
we have a super tough. We both have really, really tough day jobs.
Yeah.
And then we come home and we have a 2-year-old that's ultra demanding and like she demands our complete focus. So that 4 hours a week that we get away to ride our bikes. This is where e-bikes come in again.
Yes.
Is that we only have so much time on the weekend to ride a bike because we're paying a stupid amount of money just to babysit.
Yeah.
So we really need to make use of our time, and that's where the e-bike comes into it.
Yeah. What could be a 4-hour ride, you can bring it down to a 2-hour ride. Yeah. Just as much of
and the cool thing is, because of the gravity side of things, which we really enjoy, to get up, I never forget, when we started riding Contamans, it would take us 55 minutes to get up to the top of the mast.
That's a long one, yeah.
And then once you get to the top of the
You're
mast
knackered.
and you do a run down,
Yeah.
you don't want to go back up for another 55 minutes and get back to the top.
Unless you manage to see Nicky in the bucky and
Yes,
he happens to be
and he
going up again.
happens to be going in the same direction. But yeah, so e-bikes afforded us the ability to make the most of our time.
Yeah. I think obviously I'm in a different stage of life, so I don't have a little kid. But so even in that sense, the e-bike has allowed me in winter, when you don't have many hours post-work to do a lap, I can still do a quick 10K, just adrenaline loop in winter on an e-bike. Whereas if I tried to do that on an Amish, I'd charging up this hill, I'd probably be clocking like 200 beats per minute, you know, and then I'd try and descend, and my heart rate goes up when I descend.
Yes, true.
Because the
Same
eyes
here.
go bigger. Yeah. And, you know, now I can actually do it and get to the bottom and go, Kev, 10K lap, smash a little 10K lap, detoxed from work, go home, and you're good.
But I think it's not saying, we are not saying that there's no place for Amish bikes.
No, not at all. They're for youngsters. Anyone below 40, I didn't ask Warren how old he is. But anyway,
46, a proud
He's
46 at the moment. I qualify.
Okay, let's raise it to 45. So anyone below 45 should be on an Amish, you know?
Yeah. No, we were chatting about this earlier as well. Like Melissa wants an Amish bike. I want an Amish bike. I still
nice thing
want
to
to
have
be
in the
able
quiver,
to do a wine to Wales on an Amish bike.
Yeah.
So there's a place for everything. I think for us right now in the place that we are in life, e-bikes are perfectly suited to where we're at.
Yes.
So an Amish bike would be kind of a plug-in, and it would help us have fun on the cool shuttle days and those things.
Yes.
But for someone else out there that's a lot younger, they might not have kids. I mean, Amish bikes and cross-country is massive in this country, and there's a place for everything. E-bikes could then be what Amish bikes are to us, e-bikes can be to those guys, where they can use it as a plug-in to do some quick training and those kind of things. So I think, to break your word. So like people who are bashing e-bikes, I think it's a bit unfair. I think there's a place for everything. I know this is going to sound controversial, and we're going to hear loads of comments in the topics in the comments saying you're wrong, and that's cool. It's personal opinion. I think that there's a place for everything for all of these bikes.
I know there's been talk about e-bikes damaging trails. I don't see it. And when I say that, I ride with e-bike riders all the time. I don't see the Oaks putting a heck of a lot more wear and tear on the trail, if any. I suppose in one sense we might brake a little harder when we're trying to figure out where the braking points are on an e-bike, because it's different to an Amish bike. You've got to brake a little earlier sometimes, or sometimes you don't realize how much momentum you're carrying because it's an e-bike. You've got that extra weight. So I do get there's elements of learning, but as an overall, I don't think, like, you know, we're not doing another 10% or 20% of wear and tear into a trail because we're on an e-bike. I really don't see that.
Yeah. I had Patrick Roberts on a podcast a little while ago, and this very comment came up because the keyboard warriors went crazy on our favorite forum out there, the bike covers.
Bike covers.
And if you guys want a really cool forum to see some explosive comments, please head over to Bike Hub, go get an account and go read some of the interesting comments.
100%.
Guaranteed, irrespective of the topic, you're going to read something interesting. There's a lot of interesting people out there. But Patrick had...
That's a nice way of saying
it. Patrick had a very interesting take on it, where he said that, you know, like he's chatted to Bennett and a couple of other people, and the higher powered e-bikes, I suppose it's like a motocross bike.
Yeah.
I think there's a tipping point.
Yes.
I think if you're going 150 Newton meters and then you're in motorbike territory, I can understand.
You're putting sort of churning up.
You're churning up
I suppose
big burly tires, like lots of grip. Excuse me. And it's the middle of winter and the trails are rutted and eroded and you're kind of destroying it. But on the other side of the coin, and I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong here, please. Yeah. But on the other side of the coin, I was speaking to someone else, and if Nino Schurter's putting out 150 Newton meters and 1,000 watts
Oh.
on.
Is that what he puts out?
Well, he puts
There,
out.
thereabout.
That's
insane.
Matt
Think
Beers
about it.
was putting out 1,200 watts.
Should ban them from the Tigerberg net.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have a similar amount to and call it a chipped e-bike.
Yes.
When they're going uphill and downhill. So the power is similar. Would it be then wrong to say to them, no, you can't be on the trails?
Look, it might get to that point. I think the power curve is still climbing.
Yeah.
So it might get to that point. I mean, we're almost getting to the point where, like you said, it's almost an e-motocross bike.
Yeah.
We're almost getting to a point where it starts stepping into that realm. So I think we got it. The point is, be lacquer, guys.
Yeah.
You're going to go ride a trail. Respect the trail. Never lose respect for the fact that you're in some oak's back garden.
Yes.
And ride it lacquer. And so that you can come back and ride it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you don't ride it lacquer, like what we did, what we had at Kliprug,
yes,
where we lost a piece of trail that everyone loved. I rode it once, so I didn't know if it was, but a lot of guys mourned the loss of it.
Yeah.
Because some oak wasn't riding lacquer.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. We are playing in somebody's backyard. Whether you kind of see the concept or not, that's what you're doing. Rob Stark, it's his backyard. Hoge Kraal, it's their backyard. Whoever's backyard it is. So ride lacquer.
Yeah. And I think that's the key thing. Don't piss anyone off.
Yeah.
Just take the time to greet. And again, sorry, talking about greeting. We've had an interesting couple of occasions in the south at Takai.
The south.
So we're from the south. So the deep south. Melissa and I are both from the deep south, and it pains me to say, guys in the south, please can you greet?
Yeah.
It's crazy, like, to think that people ride past you and they drop their heads. And sorry, I'm just complete tangent. But when you mention be lekker,
no,
exactly that.
It's noticeably obvious.
Yes.
If it was like the odd oak, he's having a bad day, whatever. But the contrast is obvious. It's blatant.
Stark, and not the good kind of stark.
Not the good stuff. Not the brew, Stark brews. The other Stark.
Yeah, not the good
you don't
pizza
want it to
kind.
be your brew.
Yeah, definitely.
You're right.
It's.
But how do you change that? If he's just a miserable old goat,
he should get an e-bike.
There we go.
If life's that bad, get an e-bike. That's what we're going to take out of this lesson today.
E-bikes put smiles back on the riders. I think that's right. I think that should be the underpin of the slogan of this whole thing.
Guys, if you are suffering to the point where you are miserable on your bike, you are doing something wrong.
Get an e-bike.
We are out there to have fun. And yes, I'm not saying that you got to push past your limits and that's cool. No. But at least just be lekker.
Yeah.
It's just nice. Yeah. And then I wanted to think about this. For those people, if we come back to the training thing.
Yeah.
Sessioning on a trail.
Yes. That's another thing where you got to be lekker. You got to know what the etiquette is, what the do's and don'ts are on sessioning. And some trails don't allow you to session. So find that out.
Yes.
That's important. Some oaks say no. On this farm or with this trail, you can't.
So this is just tying into the be lekker thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to chat to Andrew about that. So we've had some issues at certain trails, won't name them, where people were pushing up.
Yeah.
And also there's a colleague of mine, she's just started mountain biking now. And she was saying, can I go ride the Bloemendaler? So I said, Bloemendaler is an interesting trail because if you are slow and new and you want to get off and try something, because of the gradient and the steepness and the blind corners, it's not a good thing.
No.
So there's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Know the trail you want to session on.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just do it anyway.
You've got to have good line of sight up the trail so that you can anticipate when to step aside.
Yeah.
That's key. So any trail where you don't have at least, I would say, 100 meters of some sort of gauge, okay, there's a don't session.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous. There's plenty of places you can session. So there's no excuse. You can't say, if I don't session Bloemendaal, then I'm never going to. No, you can go session another similar setup, which will then still improve your ability to read, adjust, and adapt to what you're doing on the trail. Yeah. And then you apply it on Bloemendaal. Yeah.
And a lot of trails, you don't have to so-called session. You can put your bike down, walk a piece of the trail, ride it, and then go back up to the top and do it again.
Oh, that's because we're on e-bike.
Yes.
Amish oaks might find it a bit harder.
You guys are going to hate the e-bike word by the time we're done chatting. But yeah, so sessioning is allowed.
Can I tell you about sessioning though? So when I started riding, the first probably 3 years of my riding, this is what happened in your mind. You're riding a piece of trail, you go through something a little technical, and in your mind, you're kind of like your eyes are this big and you didn't quite know what you were doing, but you got through it. And then you start looking at it and you start thinking to yourself, I should maybe try this or try that relative to what you've ridden. Next time I come, I'm going to try this or try that. By the time you come down the trail the next time, you've completely forgotten what you were thinking. And then you do the same and you're just making the same bad mistake on a piece of trail over and over. Then I ended up, at some point, Jaco Veldsman, another goat, him and Jordan, sorry, Jordan, I forgot your surname.
De Goede.
Master
Mechanic, Jordan.
Master Mechanic. They were going up cheeky corners at Contamins to go session. That was the first sort of exposure to sessioning I had. So I thought, that sounds good and it makes sense. And we went up cheeky corners and we sessioned. There's like a series of, I think about 7 corners.
S-bends,
It just kind of seemed to go on forever. And they were playing around there and gapping things and doing things. But for me, the win was, I realized I can actually go up, ride the 7, push up, ride the 7, and that transformed my riding completely.
Yeah.
Sessioning transformed my riding completely. Because for some goonish reason, I thought when you watch all the YouTube videos of Oaks riding, I kind of figured Oaks get on their bikes, dive into a piece of trail, smash it, looks incredible, and they just kind of rode it blind. And it's really goonish to think like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how I thought. Yeah. Then I realized, no, when the Oaks walk trails and they go suss things out, they go check how to link it together, they spend time analyzing and do that. Really, Oaks, do that. Like if you're new to it or you're only 2 years in and you just feel like you're hitting a wall in terms of your riding, session. But just session lekker.
Yeah.
Learn to step aside when you need to. Yeah. Keep an eye above. Don't leave your bike in the trail. Don't stand in the trail. You know, all those little...
Oh, you know, it's funny. A lot of people watch Daniel racing on TV, World Cups and those kind of things. It's not a one-day event. It's a 4-day event.
Yeah.
And the first day, actually the 5th day of the first day of the event, they're walking that track twice.
Yes. It's compulsory for them to do a track walk, if I understand correctly.
Yes, yeah. So they're going down and they're checking, then they're going through practice, and then in the afternoon they're going back up to the top.
You have another look.
And they're having another look.
That's why
they're checking lines.
That's why I could never do UCI downhill. I can't walk. so that's the only reason I never went and rode with Greg.
Oh, you mentioned that, actually.
I like to think that. Yeah, I like to think that.
So they actually go through and they do a serious amount of walking and riding and re-riding and stopping and sessioning and having a look.
I think YouTube's changed the game in that we now watch a Bernie Kerr and we see he rides, stops, gets off his bike, or Matt Jones or whoever you're watching, and then they'll check a piece and then he'll ride it again. And he puts it in his video. He's not trying to hide the fact that he's stopping to have a look. Yeah. And that also then, okay, they can, we should. Yeah. That's the bottom line.
It's so funny. You guys should actually head over, talking about Matt Jones. He put we'll tag Matt and Teo in this video. So Teo, when you're back in South Africa, please let me know. We want to get you on this podcast. But yeah, they just did a video now where they rode some stuff blind. And you'll see how wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and scared they are when they ride something that they've never ridden before.
I like the honesty that Matt Jones and Teo seems to bring to it.
Yeah.
And the interaction that they had with old Ronan Doon. And, and, that interaction, there was so much honesty there.
Yes.
Whereas often those things are quite edited and you just see the playful bits and the happy bits.
Yeah.
It was really good to watch.
Well, that's kind of what inspired us with our channel. It's just to get real with the people.
Yeah.
Because gone are the days where people just want to see someone pinning something.
Polished.
There's a place for that.
The polished pinner.
The polished pinner where everything's perfect and they're hitting everything and they're not casing anything. And there are normal people out there that want to see a trail for the trail.
Yeah.
And I think there's a place for all of that. So those people who are wanting to record videos and do things, go do it.
Yes.
There's a place for everything.
If I can take this opportunity to punt a guy I know and his wife, Warren and Melissa, riding. What I must commend you guys for what you've done is that we used to have a thing called Slow Rider or Slow something. It was old Denzel used to organize
slow coaches.
Slow coaches, right?
Yes, yeah. How we started riding.
Your channel actually takes people that are in that entry-level, beginner, green trail type stage and shows them a little bit about what they're going to see, what they can expect. It's not all just gunning it flat out like a Greg Minnow down a trail, which scares the life out of a lot of oaks and puts them off the idea.
Yeah.
So seeing the progression, I think has done an incredible service to the whole mountain biking community because people are less likely to shy away from saying, I'm not ready for that yet. Now they're actually willing to say that.
Yeah.
It's changed the dynamic of the thinking and the culture.
It's opened up conversation.
Yeah, we're not all big wave surfers.
Yes.
Some of us play in the shore break.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Dude, I must tell you a story about surfing. I went to
Probably
and tried surfing for the first time
many
years
not the best
ago.
place to go for the first time.
100%. I got barreled and washed and spat out, and I've never touched the surfboard ever again. So
look, the ocean humbles you, eh? And the mountain will as well. Let's be honest.
So funny you mention that. But before we chat about that, we are going to take a powder break.
Yes. It's hot in here.
It's really hot in here. And it's not just the conversation. So this is where Rob Stark, if you are listening, where we'd start chatting about this amazing beers and the pizza and everything. So we'll be back shortly and we'll continue this conversation. I actually wanted to chat to you about the surfing and the bailing and the buying turf thing and how it all kind of links together. But we'll see you now.
Lekker.
A few moments later.
And we are back.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Cool. Back to what we were chatting about, bailing. I told you about my story of falling off a surfboard.
Yes.
Any truth in when they say if you're not going fast enough, if you're not falling, you're not going fast enough?
I think it's inevitable that you're going to have a bail or two. I think that's again our kind of more gung-ho vibe, isn't it?
I want to get a smile on your face.
It's almost like, why pull brakes? You know what I mean? What are you using brakes for? It's almost that sort of mentality. But there is a level of, because we are, depending on what you like. So we like to ride a slightly more technical descent.
Yeah.
And what goes with that naturally is you want to ride it a little faster each time, and a little faster, put it together better, link it all up, and learn to, hook a thing or two. You're going to crash.
Yeah.
You are going to crash because you're pushing limits.
Yeah.
And I was actually saying to a friend of mine the other day, there is a thing of learning to crash well.
Yes. Tuck and roll.
But there's always those double wheel washouts where you don't stand a chance.
Yes.
It literally just slaps you into the ground.
I had one of those 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
On the ladies' ride. Coming through a tight corkscrew, very washy in Eden Forest.
Yeah.
And I looked back to check if Nino was behind me. And I'd never forget. I went, Nino, are you there? And next thing I looked in front of me and the front wheel washed.
It's gone.
And I hit the side of my head into a rock.
Yes.
Which the helmet's now done and dusted.
Sure.
But yeah, it's amazing how quickly it can happen.
That's, I think, where most oaks do shoulders in and, that kind of thing, head injuries, concussions.
In my case, we were talking about it earlier, 46-year-old, not the lightest oak around.
Yes. And in our reaction time, I've seen it over the years. My reaction time is slowing down. Not because I'm more nervous.
Yeah.
It just does slow. You actually don't realize why you're not reacting the way your brain's telling you to react. Your body's lagging.
Oh, those big whoops that are just a little turn on the handlebar.
It's actually just the head. I've mastered
I've mastered the whoop.
Yeah. Don't fool me. I know it was good.
But so you're saying the faster you get, it's going to happen.
You're going to crash at some point. I think there's things. So, I mean, I learned a couple of times. I don't know who told me this, but it definitely works. If you're in a tight situation, I'm not talking about a wheel washout. I'm not talking about that kind of crash. I think if you know you're getting into trouble on a section of trail, don't try and adjust your line. Almost try and ride it straight out.
Yeah.
And that has saved me multiple times. Yeah. Even although I've sometimes gone over the top of the berm into bushes, I think I don't know why it works.
I'd rather land in a bush than hit the side of the mountain.
Yes. And sometimes you do ride off into rocks. So I don't know why it works, but for some reason it works.
Yeah. Worst crash?
My worst crash, I actually would consider the Rhino 2. I was getting a bit cocky on Rhino 2. I'd probably ridden it about 180 times or 200 times. It was
local legend.
Yeah, I was still on my Amish days, and I was really trying to push for the com on it. And there's a thing we call the M rock. It's like a little double on the left-hand side. It's like a little rock double. So you launch off a rock.
Picture up.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you guys can do all of that stuff. You see, I'm a bit green that way. So I was coming up to the M rock, and then as you clear the M rock, there's a rock garden following it into like a left hand. And I was already looking at the berm at the bottom, and I didn't realize it, but I didn't clear the M rock. And my back wheel clipped the landing. And before I knew it, I didn't know what was going on. Before I knew it, the bike was coming over. And I ragdolled through that rock garden.
Oh. And those are for those that don't know it, those are some of the sharpest rocks.
Yes. If you haven't ridden Rhino 2, it's sharp. Yeah. It's sharp. It's. I would think it's almost like getting dumped on a coral reef now that you're talking surfing earlier.
Yeah.
And I mean, I literally went face first into it, ragdolled through it, but didn't get injured. I actually remember sitting up going, hold on. And when I say I didn't get injured, it took me literally, I was riding on my own, it took me literally 10 minutes to get up. Yeah. I sat there stunned. So fortunately, I never hurt myself, but that would have been my worst crash. I've had worse injuries, but they weren't really bad crashes. That's the irony of it. Sometimes you crash really gnarly and you get up and walk away.
Yes, yeah.
Other times you have a little fall and you break an arm.
Worst injury?
Worst injury, I fractured my back a year ago, literally I was in hospital this time last year.
Yes.
With a fractured back that I did at Skills Park. Thanks, Mike. Shark fin burn. Shark fin big line. Yeah, he just said, no.
Is that where it happened?
Yeah, he just said, no, you'll be able to clear that. He didn't, not on the day. He told me the day or two before that. No, you'll be able to clear that. Just that speed's good. Just remember to take off high. I didn't take off high. And I don't know what happened. I literally woke up at the bottom with Oak looking at me in the most pain I've ever been in my life. I didn't know what was going on. But then kind of, you watch too many YouTube or Grey's Anatomy. Okay, I can wiggle my toes. Okay, I'm fine. So I still try to get up.
Yeah.
Passed out because of the pain again. Eventually got to hospital and, But I must tell you the funniest story about that. So I get to the hospital. Now, I don't think I've broken my back because I can wiggle my toes. I just know I'm in a lot of pain. But because of the pain, it's a lot of muscular, because your muscles are pulling to try and
keep everything kind of together. Yeah.
And it's insanely painful. So I'm finding that if I lift my knee a little bit, relieves it, and then I put it down.
Yes,
and, you're kind of working through the pain like that. So I get wheeled into the hospital, and they're having a look at me. I'm still on my stomach because I couldn't get onto my back at that stage. They said they're going to have to roll me onto my back. Okay, roll me onto my back, almost like wet my pants, roll me onto my back. And
were you braced at the time?
Not yet.
So they just...
They 4 of them like carefully plop you over.
Carefully.
So now I'm lying on my back, but I'm starting to, I'm moving my foot. And this doctor, I can't remember what her name was, she keeps crapping me out. Lie still. stop moving. And I'm going, yeah, but stop. And she's just tuning me like this. So eventually, okay, I lie still. They put a neck brace on now, and they've got me duct taped to this thing. Now I'm lying like this.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I can just...
It's funny, yeah. So yeah, I am duct taped looking at the ceiling, and it's an incredible ceiling pattern when you get to stare at it for that long. So that 8-cock session, sorry, yeah, that's an army word. That session of being tuned by the doctor over and over and over again was probably like 10 minutes, and then I eventually accepted I must lie still. They then wheel me into this little cubicle, and now I'm lying still because now that this doctor's a bit of a Hitler. I'm like, I'm not moving. Within another 5 minutes, they pitch up and they go and draw the curtain around my bed, and it's the same doctor and 3 other doctors. And she goes, Mr. Morrison, we need to see if your sphincter is working.
What has that got to do with anything?
So I'm like, as she said it, I felt it work. So I said, it's definitely working. I just felt it work. And then she said, I'm really sorry, we've got to actually check. So I said to her, you've been telling me not to even move my big toe for 10 minutes. Now you're going to roll me on the side and put your finger up my backside to check it. And I'm going, how does that even work? We've got to do it.
So she wasn't taking the mickey.
No,
it's actually a medical thing that they have to do.
So they did it. They rolled me back. She did. Okay, they did it. And then she said, okay, squeeze. I told you it was working. So she rolled me back. And I remember looking her in the eye and I said, I bet you drew the shortest straw. But that was quite an experience.
Oh my word. So broken back.
Yeah. It was more muscular damage, though. Yes, the muscle damage was incredibly difficult to recover from. But I'm glad I'm on a bike still.
Great recovery.
And I raced my first downhill.
I must give you kudos on that. So Andrew's stoked. Representing us older folk.
The old boys.
And he went out and actually did one of the most... I don't know if it's gnarly, but it's definitely one of the steepest downhill tracks we have in Cape Town, if not South Africa.
Yeah, Old Spice Route.
And you made it through and you're on the podium representing.
Well, I was only one of 3 riders, but hey, I'll take it. It is e-bike category. It was
e-bike representing.
We did it. We're starting to change the mindset. You'll see even Luke Bruni's going to be on an e-bike one day. Yeah, no, it was good, and I'm chuffed that I've got to the point where I can actually do a downhill. I've always wanted to. It's taken me a long time to get there skill wise. Yeah. I've been a slow learner, and a lot of it's because of Strava, chasing com without actually having the skill. Yeah. I've got to the place where I'm not saying I've got the skill, but I've got the confidence to take on trails. And that came from riding with old Chris Steffens, to be honest. A phenomenal guy. We used to go do stuff together. Yeah. Like you'd just go ride a trail. Yeah. Out of your league, but then you'd figure it out. Yeah. And you'd take time to do it. You wouldn't put any pressure. No peer pressure. No,
Chris is amazing like that. Chris just actually took us up Black Rhino the first time. Okay. And we took a walk up, making sure that, again, sessioning safely. Yes. Walking up, pushing our bikes up. Making sure that if we see a rider, we're taking a step to the side. Yes. And we're having a look at all the corners, and then we'd ride down, check for riders, push back up. Yes. And that way we worked our way up the trail.
Put it all together.
And then we put it all together.
No, that's what you're doing, isn't it? It's like you're taking a piece, figuring it out, another piece. Then eventually you put a run in.
Yeah. And I think it's like that comes down to the sessioning again, sessioning of corners, sessioning of the stretch, sessioning of the features. Yes. And then your brain kind of clicks and goes, yes. That's how we do it. And then you can get down safely. And then you can start working on speed, which is the thing that comes.
Picking lines and trying a few things.
Things that come next.
But I mean, in terms of the downhills, I was never... So my son used to race downhill years ago. I was always scared, to be honest, because it's a different level. I used to race enduro. That was my thing. Yeah. But then enduro got more and more technical. Yeah. So then I got to the point where I realized I could probably do a downhill. Yeah. And that was a good place to get to. I mean, we all know how incredible the Conti's Enduro is. Looking forward to it again this year, Rob. And
probably, all jokes aside, probably my favorite event. Yes. Even though I call them our home trails. Yes. Because we're there so often. Yeah. But Melissa always used to ask me in the beginning, she goes, you're going, before she started riding, she'd go, you're going to Conti's again. Again and again and again. And then she started riding. Yeah. And now she's like, let's go ride Contis.
Yeah.
Because the better you get, the more technical the trails become.
Yes. But also, Contis has such a variety of things to try. So if you're riding the DH track or Rhino or Cheeky Corners or the Kloof or Super Tubes or Free Ride, they all have their own character.
Yeah.
And so you can learn a little something different on all of them.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of Contis.
Yeah.
No two lines are the same. And revised, no two lines are the same.
I mean, I've been riding it all the years and only ticked off the road gap on Free Ride about 2 months ago. And that just shows we go back and we try this.
Yeah.
And we do that and we try this and do that. And every time I go back, I want to do that and I want to do the next one. And I still haven't done everything.
But that's, coming back to Contis, that's another nice thing about Contis. There are different grades of road gap.
Yeah.
So you can build it up.
Yeah.
To the point where
I've done a teeny weeny little baby road gap right now.
That's a good road gap. It's a good road gap. Rhino 2 has those two little wooden pallets.
Which Andrew took me over the first time. And Melissa and I both.
But I mean, that's almost like a stepping stone towards the road gap.
Yes.
It's a mini road gap.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next obvious one would be Free Ride.
Yes.
And then you would probably find DH would be the next one, although the steep landing is the thing that freaks most people out. And then you would go to revised into the old DH next to the Kloof, which is the most hectic one in my opinion. I know oaks vary.
But the one on revised, as you come...
The upper one.
The higher one. Is that...
That is easier than it looks. It's a lot easier than it looks. If you can do the Free Ride one, I can guarantee you, if you just roll in, why that one's tricky...
Because you're coming out of that corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you just start from the top of that piece... Get on your bike, put a crank in and roll down the rock garden, you'll clear it. Yeah. Guaranteed. It's a lot easier than it looks.
Yeah. Okay, and then so that's the next one we need to tick
The nice thing about that one is it's got that insanely good berm at the bottom.
Yes, to catch
that you just catch. You think it will hold you, I promise you. That thing is probably one of the best berms to smash at speed. Like, it's really good.
Yeah.
Really
well, there we go. There we go. The next one that we're going to be ticking off. But I must ask you, so you've done downhill and enduro, and you've kind of ticked all the boxes. So if we can pick your brain regarding bike setup. So we chatted about bike setup in Rob's last video and how important it is for the people doing wine to wells and getting comfortable on your bike. How important, in your words, is bike setup?
I'm the worst oak to ask. I actually don't know what my bike setup is. My son always laughs at me because he's very precise. He'll know tire pressure front, tire pressure back, rebound. I'm clueless. And it's so bad that I'll ride a trail and think I'm just riding crap, but my bike's just like the tires are flat or the suspension's getting stiction. But I think I'm just having a crap day. I'm the worst oak to ask. So sorry viewers, I'm the worst oak. I intentionally, so when I started riding, one of the things I decided not to do was get too caught up in the tech.
Yeah.
Because then I knew what would happen is I'd ride for a couple of hours, come home and spend another couple of hours on my bike.
Yeah.
So I intentionally avoided that. So even when I go to Yaku and they talk tech, I'm pretty goonish when it comes to setup.
Dude,
all I know is
you're ruining this for me right now.
All I know is if I pick my bike up and drop it and it doesn't bounce back, that's pretty good. That'll get me down the trail. Okay, so maybe I can feed into it a little bit in that I have started to figure out, and this has taken me 10 years plus, that tire pressure on certain trails
makes a massive difference. Yeah.
So I've started to figure that out, and I'll tell you where it only clicked. 2 years ago in George. Trying to ride George and then realizing if you get the right tire pressure.
George still gives me heart palpitations.
Yeah, absolutely. If you learn to ride the right tire pressure in George, it changes the ride. Not completely, significantly.
Yeah.
And so that was a big wake-up call for me because I just used to be like, whatever, and all the oaks are doing their tweaks and they're like, get on your bike and ride, you know what I mean? And that's where I realized.
Chris, just in case you were watching, we are coming back to George this year.
Yes. Oh, that Chris.
Yes.
And Chris Steffens, he was my mechanic. He was my on-trail mechanic. So he's the oak that actually would help me. He would see my bike's not performing. He'd do something. I wouldn't ask him what. And then, that's actually a lot better.
Chris is amazing like that.
He's a legend. He's got a technical sensitivity to things like that.
Yeah.
And I just don't. I'm looking at the flowers and...
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm learning to do that now. Okay. And the more I'm riding with Andrew,
enjoy it more.
The more we're just going, how's that view?
Yes.
Look at that ostrich over there.
Yes.
Guys, have you seen the clouds? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we do a bit of mountain biking at the same time.
Yeah. And don't be scared to stop at a point where you haven't seen that angle of the mountain or the valley before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%.
We used to just chase through it. I went through probably a 3-4 year season, series, whatever you want to call it. I was just chasing through the loop.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not always good.
But I think our focus has changed a little bit.
Yes.
And speak about this honestly, is that I think we've become a bit more appreciative that there's a man above who's kind of looking after us, and we don't take things for granted anymore as much as what we did.
Don't get so cocky out there.
We respect the trail that we ride on, and we have a little bit of protection when we get out there. And I think it's opened a different eye to the riding.
On protection, I never used to wear protection. And so I got...
How many kids later?
I got... lost count. So some of my mates started crapping me out. And it took me fracturing my back to realize I need to start wearing proper full face and all that. But I wanted to actually, as you were talking now, you were saying we started to enjoy the trails more. You mentioned Louis earlier.
Yeah.
I rode Paul with him. We were sussing it out. It was Chris and the boys. We were going to plan an enduro there, so we were sussing the trails out, and Louis was riding. He was so phenomenally playful when he rode, but incredibly skillful.
But he's a massive playful. He reminds me a lot of Jackson Golston. They're like little bunnies on the trail.
All the way. He's he's seeing stuff that no one else is seeing. That changed my riding, because suddenly I started realizing, and he said it to me. He said, learn to play on the trail again. When you're just chasing time, you stop playing. So you never, ever actually try something different. And my riding has improved incredibly by learning to play on the trail.
Yeah.
Riding a bit slower, but trying this and seeing that and cutting across and hanging this out and dropping in there. Yes. And then suddenly you realize, wow, there's more to a trail than just the race line.
Yeah.
So that
crazy when you think about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Final question of the night.
Yeah.
I know this. We could go on talking forever. But favorite trail at the moment?
Whoa. For different reasons, I've got different favorites.
Okay.
George is my favorite because it just blows my mind.
Speaking about George,
Fart Squirrel,
AC/DC.
And even rock and roll.
Yes.
It just blows my mind.
So the only reason I like George trails is because last year it was the first time we did George, and we cleared some of the sections, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I can't promise I'm going to do it again this year. It was like we're riding in a fog of awesomeness last year. But for those who don't know, George is amazing.
Yeah.
It is quite technical.
Yeah,
but,
very technical.
Okay,
There are certain
very technical
lines that are very technical.
Yeah.
But my overall favorite trail might surprise a lot of oaks. It's the free ride trail all the way to the bottom.
Yes.
It's short, but it's got everything in that little piece of trail. And you can loop it. You go up Old Man's Climb and just loop it and loop it and loop it and loop it. Every single time I ride it, it's an absolute blast.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I was going to say the exact, and this wasn't planned, but I was going to say exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's got the fast swooping corners on the top.
Yeah.
It's got
drops.
The chunky rock garden with the drop.
Yeah.
Gap. Shout out to Angelo, who went over his handlebars on that drop and broke his collarbone. You're going to be back soon.
Yeah.
and then into a couple of pallets.
Yes.
The road gap,
That
and then it
step
gets
down launcher.
Yeah, the little
road
step
gap,
down launcher,
yes.
and then right at the bottom, if you do the extended bit, there's quite a steep
gnarly
little
little,
corner in the bottom.
That some of the com chasers, I'm not mentioning any names, Paul Combrink, that just straight line everything. That just straight line everything. But no, we get it. But it's a good piece of trail.
Yeah.
It's a bang for buck trail. So I always used to measure trails on the bang for buck. What it costs me to get to the top, I must get at least twice as much of a jaw going down it for me to want to climb it again.
And it's only a 5-minute climb, and you're back to the top.
And it's not
on an e-bike.
It's relatively easy. So when I say that, Rhino is still an absolute jaw to me.
Yes.
But it's constant work.
Yeah.
You've got to be focused. You've
got to be
on
looking
it.
ahead.
Yes.
You can't look down.
Whereas free ride, it's almost like muscle memory by now. You just know what's coming and you're just playing, and it's a jaw. It's an absolute jaw trail.
It brings a smile to me. I can't wait to ride this weekend. You're not going to be here, unfortunately.
Thanks. I felt that.
But Andrew, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm sure everyone would have. I think we got to do this again. I think there's so much more we can chat about and just kind of pick your brain.
Yeah.
There's so much more I want to chat to you about, like marshalling and the Tygerberg trails.
Another place where you can
out.
learn to be lacquer as a marshal.
Oh.
Be lacquer as a marshal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I've actually given up my marshal status this year. I think, as much as it's awesome giving back, and I was a trail marshal for, I think it was 5 years.
Yeah.
I just want to ride now.
Yeah,
and I
get that.
think we
look. You guys put a lot into it through this and through your other channel. You give plenty back. I just want to. I want to do those fun rides. So we had something going called the 6 a.m. Club. Yes.
In the middle of summer, and we're out on the trails at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it is peachy.
Yes.
It's just unbelievable.
Yes.
And you've got the most amazing views and fantastic company. So we encourage everyone just to get out there and go ride your bike.
Yeah. And just so Patrick and Mornay Veers, Mornay Veers, don't worry, it's not the 6 o'clock club anymore. The sun rises later. So it's the 6:43 club at the moment. Just in case. Don't send me an email. Yeah.
But just get out there, be lekker, enjoy it out there. I mean, there's just so much for you to take in.
Yeah.
It's actually an incredible subculture. The mountain biking community, other than the southern suburbs, he said it, not me, is an incredible mountain biking community. And that's the thing I think that adds to the joy of riding.
Yeah.
It's a lekker vibe.
Yeah. So keep it lekker. Enduro coming up on the 16th of March.
Bummer.
Yeah. Oh, God, don't get me started. And then I want to join Andrew at the Yonkers Downhill. So that's going to be my first ever downhill event.
Come on.
Melissa's joining us as well. So we're going to see how this weekend warriors get down the DH track.
E-bike downhill.
E-bike downhill. Here we go. I mean, the worst that I can do is fourth.
Yes, yes. Come on, that's not bad.
But I mean, for anyone who's on an e-bike and wants to come try it, I'm happy to finish 10th if we can get the numbers in there.
Yeah, let's get some more.
So come pull in, and we'll see you for the next one. I think Andrew Savage is on the next podcast. We're going to chat the second episode of Wine to Wells. We're going to talk suspension and just explain to you guys a little bit about rebounding compression and how it all works. Yes, because
I failed that question.
Andrew 2.0 will be on the next one. But cool. Andrew, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
See you out there.
And we'll see you out there.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Lekker.
Bye.
Cheers.